Hello Zambia, and thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights. My name is Chimwemwe Lungu. Today marks a very pivotal moment for Zambia as the highly anticipated 2025 national budget will be presented to Parliament today by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Situmbeko Musokotwane. Now, we as Team Financial Insights are present right here at the Parliament grounds where we're going to be bringing you all the insights that are going to be brought forward by the Minister right here in Parliament. So do stay tuned for more insights right here on Financial Insights. Remember, get to know. So we are still right here at Parliament where the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Situmbeko Musokotwane, is about to give a presentation of the 2025 national budget. This coverage by Financial Insight is powered by KPMG. I am joined by the managing partner at KPMG. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Kindly just run us through what are some of the expectations as KPMG from today's presentation of the national budget by the Minister of National Planning and Finance?
I think obviously the biggest elephant in the room is the energy crisis. I don't think it can be a business as usual a budget that covers all sectors kind of equally. I expect greater emphasis placed on alleviating the energy crisis. Right now the economy is stuttering because of insufficient power, because of the load shedding. So we do expect, that's my expectation and my belief that there'll be a few surprises for us. But obviously I expect him to cover all the other critical sectors, mining in particular, agriculture, tourism and so on. But we do expect, and I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people, we do expect a bit more emphasis or measures to deal with the current energy crisis. For the short term, yes, but what are we going to do about the future? There was a drought this year. There could be heavy rains next year. But what happens 5-10 years from now when there's another drought? So those are the kind of measures I think we really like to hear about and see in the budget.
Okay, thank you so much. And as an audit firm, sir, in relation to tax incentives and also policies, what are some of the things you're expecting in the national budget in relation to tax incentives when it comes to KPMG as an organization?
Well, we expect additional tax incentives apart from the ones that have been given already on the likes of solar equipment and other alternative power sources. Last year, I think last year's budget which was announced last year for 2024 was a bit tame. There was nothing really earth-shattering. It was like a stability budget. But going forward, with our GDP growth constrained this year, especially because of the energy crisis, we expect to see something that will give more impetus to the economy to actually kick off and grow.
Yes, and also in relation to SMEs and also sustainability, anything in relation to that as KPMG that you really hope the budget can really address some of those issues in relation to SMEs and also anything else in related to SMEs?
Yeah, SMEs have complained that the cost of doing business is high. It's high for everyone, but particularly for SMEs where their margins are really eroded. So it'd be great to see some additional incentives or some additional funds being made available through the likes of the CDF, through the likes of the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission. For example, the CEC over the last 2 years has been granted just under 400 million kwacha per year. It would be nice if that is at least doubled or trebled to create more of an impact upon the SME sector.
In the 2025 budget, we have reflected the fact that we are coming out of the most devastating drought that many of us have ever seen. Certainly for me, at my age, I've never seen a drought that is worse than what we've gone through. And a drought does not understand calendar months. It has got dynamics of its own. So obviously, what we know is that part of the effects of the drought of 2024, and of course assuming that there will be no more rain next season, but part of the problems are going to go on through 2025. Certainly we know that the harvest normally happens May, June. So between now and then, the problem that we've had in terms of hunger, it is still going to be with us. This is why in next year's budget, you still see significant amount of resources going to feed people. The focus of this government was to preserve life. And I think that we've done to the best of our ability through the social cash transfer, the extended social cash transfer, and also the cash for work. The cash for work, just to remind everybody, it targets those who are not eligible to get more or less free money because they are old, because they are disabled, and stuff like that. The cash for work says, yes, you are hungry, but you still have energy in you. Do something, and government or the people, the taxpayers will pay you so that you contribute to something. So you see this continuing to happen in 2025. But I also want to say that this push of cash through the various channels that I've described is beyond just pure humanitarian effort. It is actually also part of helping to stabilize the economy in a broader sense. You can imagine the amount of incomes that farmers lost in 2024. They lost a lot of money. So, if there was no way of putting back part of that money into the economy, today most businesses will be suffering very strongly because farmers, when they get paid, they constitute a significant amount of the buying power. Okay? They are part of the so-called aggregate demand in the economy. So when that is missing, it follows that restaurants, grocery shops and so forth, they would be in trouble. So yes, this is about humanitarian relief, very, very important, but also it is in part of the process of providing some stability to the economy. So next year, we continue with that up to June, and then we pick it up from there. So very, very important. Another important element in 2025 is what I said in Parliament, and this is that the agenda to push the economy to grow stronger, that continues and actually is part of resilience. As we see today, the interest in mining is just overwhelming. Every other week I get a report of a finding. Obviously, these projects will come down the line, but we now see that the policy that we made to make the mining sector to be competitive, that is now beginning to bear fruit. No question about it. And those who say excessive incentives, you are wrong. In fact, even as we talk today, Zambia still is one of the relatively high tax mining countries. Our colleagues in Australia, they tax less. Canada, they tax less. Congo DRC, they tax less. Chile, the tax rate. So you'd have to be crazy to be the one that is going to be way out of line to overtax, because the end result is what we've seen. The investments go in other countries. So there are no crazy incentives here. We are actually still one of the high tax countries. So we push very hard on the agenda for growth in the budget. I'm sure my colleagues may refer to that. What we are doing to support agriculture, what we are doing to support tourism, what we are doing to support manufacturing. All this can never be forgotten. We have to push very hard so that jobs are preserved.
You gave a very, very enlightening and also very detailed presentation at today's symposium. So just kindly shed more light on some of the key highlights that you really brought out in today's presentation on behalf of Absa, of course.
No, thank you so much again, Chimwemwe. So I think the first thing is that we would like to affirm the stance that the government has taken, that the budget should seek to deliver growth for this economy. I think the budget seeks to achieve 6.6% growth. That's very important, especially coming on the back of what has been a very difficult year. We did state in there that it's a very brave stance that the government has taken, given the challenges that we are going through. As you know, there's drought, there's energy problems. So for the minister to set the bar at that level, we do have a lot of respect for him. Our role as a key player in the economy is to make sure that we support that agenda. We do have a very robust client engagement model where we support clients who are operating in the different sectors that the government would like to achieve this growth in, be it mining, manufacturing, agriculture. So we will be playing a very active role to make sure that we support the government to deliver the growth that they've set up for next year.
Talking about playing a very, very active role, Mr. Chishimba, so just kindly shed more light on some of the things that we should really, really look out for in 2025 when it comes to Absa Bank, in also just to address some of the challenges that we're currently facing as a nation. What are some of the things that you will be embarking on as a bank to just address some of the challenges that are being faced today as we are going through this energy crisis in Zambia?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I think the first thing is that one of the sectors that the government seeks to aggressively support is the agri sector. Absa Bank is one of the key players in that sector. We extend credit both to the large corporates as well as the small entities, the SMEs or the MSMEs. So our role there will be to make sure that even the list of the clients in the value chain of agriculture is supported. We have participated this year in the Strategic Agriculture Finance Program. We're looking to expand that. It's good that the government itself has expanded that program. So we will be taking part to make sure that we partner with government, working with the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme to support these farmers so that we can bring food security to the nation. For the large farmers and corporates, I think those we already have a very well established model of how we support them based on the cash flow forecasts and their plans that they've put in place. So be looking at reviewing those plans that they have for next year. The beauty is that for the coming year, we've been told that we're going to have a normal to above normal rainfall. So I think that's good news for the farmers. It's good news for us as lenders, because then as we put out money there to support these projects, we know that this is money that will generate productivity to the economy. For the rest of the sectors, I think it's for us to continue what we do. There's a lot of emphasis around renewable energy. I think what the drought has done is that it has brought to light the fact that we need to diversify the energy mix. So we will be looking to support a lot of, and we are doing it already anyway. This year we've introduced a program, a funding program to support clients that want to invest in solar, so that we can help to alleviate the problem of load shedding that is going on at the moment. So we'll be scaling that up as we get into next year.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another special episode of our budget coverage on behalf of KPMG Zambia. My name is Mwelwa Chibesakunda, and with me is the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Felix Nkulukusa, who's going to tell us a little bit about the budget preparation process, what he took from yesterday's symposium, which the Ministry of Finance held, which KPMG was also part sponsor. Secretary to the Treasury, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm well. It's such an honor to finally have you on the Financial Insight show.
It's an honor to me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So anyway, for our general public who do not understand what the budget process is all about, are you be able to give us an overview of what it takes to actually deliver a budget such as the 2025 budget that was recently announced by the Minister of Finance?
Thank you very much. Obviously, we start with a lot of consultations, and we start with what we call the budget policy. So we call the stakeholders, different sectors, and try to come to terms what is the priority policy in the medium term for each of those sectors. And once we put that together, then we go to cabinet. And we then present to cabinet what we think the policy for the medium term would be. And once cabinet gives us an approval, we then prepare a consultative document called the Medium Term Expenditure Framework, which is a green paper. We produce that green paper, which again we take to cabinet. Following the policy approvals, this is what we think the focus should be. And once cabinet approves it, then we release that green paper to the stakeholders. We publish it. And then we wait, we give the stakeholders time for them to respond to that. And after we get some feedback with that, then we prepare the actual budget. In doing so, we issue what is called a cost circular. A cost circular is basically going to the different sectors where we are informing the sectors, given the resource envelope we have, this is the indicative ceiling that we think you can work within, and this is the guidance on how you prepare the budget. Issues like what would be the exchange rate, issues like how you treat grants coming from the cooperating partners, issues like how you treat loans, issues like what will be the priority in all that. And based on that cost circular, then we ask each of the sectors to prepare their own budget. The Minister of Finance doesn't prepare the budget. The Minister of Finance guides the sectors to prepare their own budgets. And once they prepare their own budgets, they bring that to the Minister of Finance for consolidation. Obviously, we then make sure that it fits within the resource envelope. And we have got what we call budget hearing, where the Minister of Finance now goes through the sector budgets, the institutional budgets, and we look at, are these budgets aligned with the policy as was approved by Cabinet? And once that is done, and obviously they will come and tell us that the money they have is very little. For instance, in this year's budget hearing, we are told that put together all the line ministries, the additional money they wanted over and above what is in the budget was 67 billion kwacha. And obviously, because we don't have that money, then we tell them to reprioritize. Some of them, we sit down, we reason together, they reprioritize, and they take the money to where we think it will be necessary. And once that consolidation is done, then we go into the system, pull out that budget in the different sectors for us to prepare the budget speech. So the budget speech that we prepare is basically a summary of what the sectors has provided in the actual budget. The actual budget is called the estimates of revenues and expenditure, or the yellow book. It shows how much revenues we have and where we intend to spend it. But in the budget speech, we then provide a synopsis of what does this mean in terms of the macro figures, and this is what the minister basically presents.
Well, the big thing was that we're looking at a budget that moved from 178 billion to 217 billion. That's a 22% increase. So actually looking for more money. And of course, what came out very clearly was that in many of the expenditure side, government was putting in more money into CDF, putting more money into health, putting more money into education. And so on the expenditure side, there seems to be a lot of impetus in trying to make things better. But like with all budgets, one of the big things that you are concerned about is where is the money going to come from. And the first thing that I felt this is ambitious is to raise 174 billion kwacha from taxes and domestic revenues, because that's equivalent to the 2024 national budget. In other words, if in 2024 we were able to raise 174 billion, we'd be funding the budget 100% by domestic resources without having to borrow. So clearly that's a big challenge that we're looking for 2025, especially given that, number one, we have expensive energy costs in terms of fuel. Number two, we have expensive electricity tariffs. Number three, there's load shedding that now we talk of a minimum of about 16 hours. In some places it's as much as 2 or 3 days. Then we're looking at the fact that inflation is running at about 20-21%. This is consumer pricing index inflation, which means that interest rates in the bank are around 27-28%. Very expensive money. And then you've got your exchange rate, which is 25-26 kwacha to a dollar. So these all go against private sector growth. And yet, on the revenue side of the budget, the government is expecting the private sector to pay more in taxes, more in customs duties, more in VAT, and actually even more in pay-as-you-earn, which is tax on your salary, even though the tax bands have not changed. We're looking at 3 billion kwacha worth of additional tax from employees, which suggests that we need to see employment in Zambia between now and January of almost 40,000 new employees. So the question is, where is all this going to come from? So on the revenue side of the budget, the challenges are big. But what also came out very clearly are some of the challenges we're facing which we've not addressed. For example, the challenge of power deficits, the role of ZESCO in managing power more efficiently. We see that is not happening. ZESCO is not communicating with its customers. It's not trying to find an arrangement with customers, a dialogue where customers can manage the use of electricity to avoid load shedding. Because load shedding is literally going to lead to companies closing down. Another thing that came out very clearly in our discussions is the lack of impact coming from the export proceeds tracking framework. The export proceeds tracking framework was launched on the 1st of January 2024. It had a 90-day window allowing exporters to bring their money into the country, which means from the 1st of April right to now, we're in 1st of October, we should have seen months of money coming in from export earnings, which was roughly calculated between $40 and $50 million a day. That would have brought the exchange rate down, the kwacha would get stronger, inflation would come down. So this has not happened. And this is a challenge that we're putting on government, that you have this framework, but the results of this framework don't appear to be manifesting themselves in the economy. Of course, the other challenge is really how are we going to mitigate against expensive fuel, against the high cost of doing business. How can we use our energy more efficiently? Instead of using trucks and buses, why are we not focusing on the railway systems? Because the railway system is 25 times cheaper than the road system in terms of transportation.
Congratulations on hosting a very successful budget analysis today. What are some of the key highlights of today's event on your part as KPMG, and what were you hoping to achieve by coming up with today's analysis of the budget?
Well, first of all, I think hats off to the panelists. They did a great job. And many thanks to the Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Felix Nkulukusa, who outlined most of the details in the budget and what the budget is intended to achieve. We did have panelists from Zambia Chamber of Mines. We had people from Mr. Yusuf Dudia from the Private Sector Development Association. We had Mr. Mutada Mkuka from the Commonwealth Energy Corporation PLC, and we had Dr. Leonard Mwanza from the Bankers Association of Zambia, and Mr. Kaluba from the Zambia Chamber of Mines. Yeah, so it was really good. I think what came out and from the discussions with the various participants, one thing that came through, which is close to my heart, is one of the participants did talk about the need to consolidate all the various empowerment funds that we found spread all over various ministries, various government departments, making them really inefficient. If they came through under one consolidated fund and under one body, I think the intended purpose, the purpose for which the funds are intended, would manifest much earlier. And I think the ST did say he broadly agreed with that, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But I think there will be further discussions and we can see how all these funds can be consolidated. So that's one thing that came out very clearly for me. And then also, as we've been talking about over the last few days, the benefits that are expected from the increased CDF, benefits that are expected from increased allocation of funding to the likes of road infrastructure, to the likes of construction of secondary schools and things like that. So overall, I think it was good. The vibe was positive. And it was basically a summary of what we've been discussing since the budget was announced on Friday.
And if I have to be honest, the budget is something that is very complex for a lot of Zambian people to just really break down and grasp. And from Friday, personally, to today, I have just attending your event. It has really just given me more insight, and the figures today were very broken down to just everyone to be able to understand where the money is going and what allocation is going where. So what can we really look forward for when it comes to KPMG to really come up with such events that just really bring together key industry players just to really just take part in the national budget, just to really make a lot of people, Zambian people, to have a clear understanding of what the budget is all about and also what they should expect. So what can we really expect from KPMG
well, we'll do
contributing to the Zambian economy?
Well, we'll do this every year. And we contribute to the economy in various ways, obviously by providing employment and by being a trusted service provider to industry, to the capital markets, giving assurance, providing tax services to our clients, consulting services to our clients, helping Zambian entities and businesses do much better. So the better service we provide for them, I think the better they're able to govern themselves, look after their controls, their accounting, their finances. When they do well, the economy does well. So we are basically like one of the enablers or catalysts to help with economic activity, to help the real sector, because we're in the professional services, but we help the real sector perform better.
Any last message that you have to the Zambian people out there?
Well, I think the budget is ambitious, but a lot depends on what happens with how we'll deal with the energy crisis, because that's one major assumption, that the growth that has been projected, I think the assumption is that the energy crisis will be sorted out. So we all need to work together to make sure that this issue of energy is sorted out, and that will actually really help to try and realize the budget. And also when you look at the long term, the ST talked about, say in 3 years time, producing 1 million tons of copper. That's all dependent on what we do now in terms of sorting out the energy crisis.
This has been Team Financial Insights right here at the National Assembly, powered by KPMG. My name is Chimwemwe Lungu once again, and thank you so much for staying tuned. Remember, get to know.